Okay.
But there's a rumor that there's this intimidating toothbrush that's been terrorizing people. And so,
Listen, Linda.
Have you been ran out of your
honey,
home?
listen.
Have you been ran out of your home because of an electric toothbrush or something?
I really did think I was praying over my family. I was praying that we would not have a bomb go off in our home. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
No,
I don't even know.
Do you want me to tell you guys what happened?
I'm afraid to hear this. I'm afraid.
So it was a Monday morning a week ago, and I sleep really hard on Sunday nights because Sunday's a really, really big day for ministry, for worship leading and stuff. And so like I was out and I was awoken from a dead sleep by a terrible noise. And it sounds
like a Christmas story. That's what I was thinking.
And what was the clatter?
Listen, it sounded like someone was sawing through my wall and there was water, like a waterfall. And I called Justin, I put on speakerphone and I said, babe, this is not good. Like something really, really bad has happened. He's like, I'm just now pulling into the plant. And I'm like, it's really bad. And he goes, okay, I'm pulling away from the plant. and he came home and for 25 minutes, that's how long it takes him. I prayed and I called him again. I said, do I need to take the kids for safety? I got the dogs out of our room because I thought that my room was going to blow up and we were all going to die. I was really, really scared. And he came home and he
what was it, Lindsay? What was it?
He opens the shower door and he said, babe, looks like my toothbrush fell off the ledge and somehow got turned on. Turned the toothbrush off. And we were saved, my hero.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm a little bit shocked. So can I speak on behalf of the audience?
Please.
Here's what everybody, y'all feel free to chime in and tell everybody that you're agreeing with me here.
Yes.
So I learned a lot about you already. So here's the question.
Okay.
You know, there are, on this planet, when something happens, there are a million possibilities.
Yes.
You went straight to the house is going to blow up.
I went straight to the Lord in prayer.
Well, that
for
was
my house.
After your house is going to blow up. I mean, why couldn't it have been that there is a mole who is bore into your house?
Listen, when I was like in
How about, when I was in middle
school, our water heater exploded.
Mole. It was going to blow up, okay?
Our water heater exploded when I was in middle school.
Well,
in the bathroom right next to my...
Not only do I get a lot out of your sense of humor and just the way, just how kind and open you are, but also just the way you get into things is, for someone like me, it's great to be around because it's shown me a brand new way to be able to live. So I can't possibly say enough good things about you except that I love you.
Terry, you have made a huge impact in my life. I'm so grateful that God has brought you into my life. As much as you have poured out, I still feel like you are this pool of wisdom that we've yet only had sips of.
The big overarching takeaway for me that I appreciate is you're the real deal, right? You're the genuine article, and you live what you talk about. You don't just say you can do this, you can do that. You actually run and operate and live in that lifestyle business, not just talk about it as a theory.
I'll speak for me for a moment. In my life, oftentimes, I go in and I push that button, and I push it gingerly in the hopes that I can get one of the rings to go up and hit the hook. And whenever it's your turn to talk, you kind of say, Case, move over for a second and take that button and jam it and hit it 19 times to get every ring flying in the air. And that's kind of the feeling that I have whenever you talk. It's like, wait a minute, let's shake this up a little bit. Let's shake the snow globe and see what happens. Like right now, Terry, I am so inspired after listening to you for the last 25, 30 minutes to go back and do about 400 things, of which I might have done one prior to you talking, but you got me so jazzed up to go in there and accomplish something because, often we need people like that, with agitators, somebody to come in and agitate things and say, hey, look, you can do a lot more than you're doing. Look at me. And Terry, I've always liked looking at you, and I'm hopeful that I can be more like you going forward, so thank you for everything.
I'm still blown away by your story. It's incredible. And so it's just so inspiring. And so, I mean, I feel like you embody that. Like when I think about you, it's hard to separate you from that incredible story that you have. And so it's such a gift to us to get to just be in the presence of someone who has that story and who has come as far as you have. And with that, the second word was experience, because with that, you just bring so much experience. There's so much value in what you say. Amazing coach. So like just vast experience. I feel like you're able to speak into so many of our lives in so many different situations. And it's always like on point and helpful and thoughtful. And then the third was humble, because I feel like you do all of that with so much humility. Like you don't, I feel like you don't pat yourself on the back a lot, or, say, oh, I'm this great person. It's kind of hidden behind this, oh, I've just got a little comment here for you, filled with all of this value.
When I think of Terry Wilson, I think about the comeback kid. Your original story of how you built the piano business and how the market of 2007, 2008, that crash, and how you came back and you built something that is what it is today. And yet here you are.
Hey, Terry. Well, I think today has just demoed exactly the brilliance that you share. The humor, it's guaranteed that every time that Terry's got the mic, there's going to be laughter amongst the group. And I'll extend that into honoring your skills as an interviewer and as a podcast, because I had jumped on a few months ago because I hadn't listened to your podcast, and content can draw us in, but the people who lead the conversation and the skill behind that, I was pleasantly surprised and impressed, and I've kept you in my circle because of that. So I think the lens in which you see the world is so amazingly beautiful. I love that you're real. You talk sports, you talk music, you talk the things that come to our heartbeat of being a part of this country. And it draws people in, and I'm one of those individuals. And I also think you're genuinely gentle, sincere, and you're like, a cousin or an uncle that, I just want to hang out with more and more each time. So you light us up, and that's not something easy to do week in and week out, in just the waves of our own lengths and the commitments that we have in our circles. So I am grateful for all that you bring to us and all that you've shared with us, and definitely the laughter as well. So
what's up, Fire Nation? Another bonus episode coming your way. This one was a great chat. I had a lot of fun with Terry Wilson. Terry is a serial entrepreneur who offers entrepreneurs and solopreneurs the tools, training, and technology needed to earn and enjoy more. For the past 13 years, he's helped thousands of hungry individuals discover their thing, develop the skills to do it, and be given a strategy to deliver it to market and produce value. Terry has a weekly podcast that can be heard on iTunes, Stitcher, and at terrywilson3.com. He also wrote a book called You Are Worth More, which you can check out at youareworthmorebook.com. We have a lot of fun in this episode, Fire Nation. I truly hope you enjoy. It's hard. It is hard work to achieve uncommon success. But you know what else is hard, Terry? Being broke.
You better believe that.
Living paycheck to paycheck, not being able to support your loved ones, not being able to support yourself, not being able to get up in the morning and do something that you want to do, but doing something you have to do. That's hard too. So Terry, my call to action for everybody here is choose your hard. Like back in 2012, it was hard. I spent 32 years of my life doing hard work and making the wrong decision on choosing my hard. I was going down the wrong path. I wasn't having any success. But then I flipped it and I said, you know what? Building this business, Entrepreneurs on Fire, it's going to be hard work. But the alternative is hard too. So I choose the hard of building a life of freedom, of building a life of choice, of building a life of uncommon success. And that's my call to action to everybody hearing our voices today. Choose your heart.
Choose your heart. Boy, I love that. Because there's a high cost of low living. And sometimes we think that, we're just going to get out of this easy by taking the path of least resistance. And boy, sometimes the end of that path is just a tiger. I'm telling you, brother. I'm telling you.
Identify your big idea. Not be a weak, pale imitation of somebody else's big idea, which most people do. They're like, oh, look at what Terry's doing. He's so successful. Look what John's doing. I'll just copy them. And then you wonder why you fail, because you're a weak, pale imitation of those people and you will never win as a result. You need to come up with your big idea your zone of fire and wake up every day on fire, living that life. That is the life that you deserve. Because what at the end of the day do we really want? Freedom. The ability to wake up and do what we want, where we want to do it, with whom we want to do it with. If you have those three things, what more is there in life? And you can give yourself that gift. Just take it.
Which is identifying, why are you here? You know, I like to say it this way. You're not a cosmic accident. You didn't show up on planet Earth because lightning struck a mud puddle billions of years later and you crawled out. You're a significant person with a significant reason for being here. There's a reason for you to be here. And once you identify that big idea, as John just said it, life becomes, oh my gosh, becomes unimaginable. Give us go ahead.
Just on that point real quick. I mean, I think it's so key for people to understand this, like what Terry is just sharing. There is so much wisdom out there in this world, but there's also so much noise and it's chaotic. And sometimes it's so hard to really cut through all of this and to really get to the meat and potatoes, to really get down to what matters.
Does anyone know Terry's story, what Terry did?
I do.
So Terry sold musical instruments, sold pianos, right? And what was it? Was it 9/11 that created the problem?
Yeah.
9/11 creates a problem. Nobody wants to go. There's no money in town anymore. It's a brick and mortar store. Some woman comes up to him in church, some older woman, and she's like, I was thinking about your problem, and the Lord told me you should sell them on the computer. Sell your pianos on the computer. And Terry's like, that's a great idea. I got to get out of here because you're crazy. So, of course, he does it in that sweet way where he says, oh, bless your heart. And
bless your heart.
He thinks about it. And then he's like, you know, he told me about the story about, you know, the guy, it's a flood and, you know, you should get out. No, the Lord's going to save me. And at the end, he goes to God and says, why didn't you save me? He's like, I did. You know, I tried. I sent you the news report. I sent you a helicopter. You know. So Terry takes that and he's like, God's telling me what to do here, right? So that was the message. I should sell these things online. His first thought when the woman tells him that is, how am I gonna, because she said her grandson sold CDs.
On eBay.
Yeah, Terry's like, how am I, you could just I can't put a stamp on a piano. This is crazy.
Drop it in the mailbox.
Yeah, so next day, right? The next day he starts sells them out in a week. So he doesn't think about, he doesn't latch on to his idea of I can't ship these things cheaply, right? He just goes past that. He goes, well, what's my first solution? My first solution is I got to sell these things. That's all he's thinking about. He sells out his whole inventory in a week. Then the problem comes to him. How do I get rid of these things? I've now sold them. How do I deliver them? So what would you guys have done?
Hire a U-Haul and drive them out there.
Yeah, that's what Terry did. Terry got a truck and just was like, well, I'm gonna take my brother-in-law. We're gonna go around the country. We're going everywhere. And he delivered pianos for 2 weeks. That's amazing. And then, you know, then he's like, oh, and the next thing is I talk to someone and as he goes and he talks to the manufacturer and he's like, so, you know, where are these things? You know, if I want to get them, how do I sell them? And he doesn't go into the conversation with the idea of, I'm going to figure out how to make this more efficient for myself. Or maybe he does to a degree, but he doesn't make that his outward appearance. He's not desperate. He's desperate, but he doesn't portray desperation. He portrays, as he's talking to the person, he's asking them questions about their business. And they give him the keys to the kingdom. They tell him the whole layout. They tell him exactly how to run his business. Now, in Watergate, did you ever hear, like in the first week after Watergate, Woodward and Bernstein spoke to a Spanish guy down in Mexico. And the joke was, he told us exactly what happened, but we don't speak Spanish, so we lost the story. It turns out that was true. They got the whole thing in the first week, but didn't understand it. Terry got the whole thing in the first week and put it together. He hears, you have warehouses all over the country, so why don't I sell them and then you guys will just deliver them locally? He gets that in an instant. He doesn't think about the problem. He doesn't think they're not going to do it, any of this stuff. When I hear about Terry selling them and he just gets in a truck, my first thought with that is, I know.
Welcome to TerryWilson3.com.
Decade of helping others
Discover, develop, and monetize your skills and talents
at TerryWilson3.com.
This is the Terry Wilson. Really, I'm excited, Terry. I want to get started.
You're the real deal, right? You're the genuine article.
Right now, Terry, I'm so inspired after listening to you for the last 25, 30 minutes to go back and do about 400 things. You got me so jazzed up.
I'm still blown away by your story.
When I think of Terry Wilson, I think about the comeback kid.
You're like a cousin or an uncle that I just want to hang out with.
Terry, you have made a huge impact in my life.
Can't possibly say enough good things about you except it's that I love you.
Here's your host, Terry Wilson.
You need to change it so when it says here's your host, they can be expecting, the right person, but that's okay. Welcome to episode 474 titled Behind the Ropes. Tonight, our special guest and elite trainer, Bobby Christy, will be sharing the lessons he learned while working this year behind the ropes at the LPGA Championships won by Nelly Korda. This is a great trainer. We're all looking forward to the training that he'll be giving. I'm sorry, I'm reading his notes here. This is a great training we're all looking forward to that will then be followed by a special excerpt from the Coach with TW3.com podcast. This special excerpt will feature an author, a speaker, Mel Robbins, on the 5-second rule that Terry will be sharing more about in segment 3 and 4. But we're happy to have Bobby aboard. How you doing, Bobby?
Doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Every time I hear Bobby's trainings, it just reminds me how I'm failing at life because it's always here's how he's successful in crypto. He's at the LPGA.
That's what I'm saying. What are you doing?
Yeah, I was talking to Dad before this. I was like, wait, he was at the LPGA? He was like, yeah. I was like, I thought he was a baseball guy. He was like, well, it's Bobby. He does everything.
It's a sport, and Bobby's in it.
You look back on yourself, and you're like, I'm pretty good at League of Legends. So.
Hey, you got to get up pretty early to keep up with Bobby. That's for sure.
Yeah, you got to be grinding.
So we're looking forward to that, Bobby.
We'd really appreciate if you found value in our podcast to like, share, and subscribe. You can share this podcast with the hashtag TW3podcast474. We always like to pick someone who has shared our podcast and send them a free copy of the book, You Are Worth More. So please share, like, and subscribe. Your help means another Wilson kid will go fed this week.
Nice. Good. Nice.
You like that, huh?
Speaking of You Are Worth More, the conference is coming up and it's filling up fast. You definitely want to be there if at all possible. Go right now and buy your tickets while they're still available at TerryWilson3.com. Space is limited, so don't miss the best entrepreneurial conference happening. This conference is September 7th through 9th in Greenville, South Carolina. Genuinely, though, get your tickets. It's going to be worth it. We always have raving feedback after each conference. It seems like people take off after they leave.
We don't do everything right, but I think on that one
we do the conference
we
right.
get it right.
Well, you do the conference right, at least.
Ironically enough.
It's weird. So we're going to be talking about lessons we learned from observing other people that operate at a very high level in their area of expertise. I know Bobby will be talking about what he learned at the championship this year. But I thought, what are some of the lessons we learned ourselves from watching others? So we all kind of came in with, just an anecdote from either sports or entertainment of somebody a life lesson we learned from, somebody great operating at the highest level.
Yeah.
I think people can probably guess where mine's going to be. So why don't you guys go ahead and go first?
River, you got one?
I'm going to go with the playoffs versus LA when Acuna hit the Grand Slam.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, that was the most exciting sports event I have ever been at live.
That was really the coolest thing I think I've seen in person. But I'd say just how he can clutch up things,
Yeah, he rose to the occasion.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that whole stadium was rocking.
I remember. We were shaking up on
we're up at you could not get any higher in Truist Park than where we were literally right behind home plate. At the very back. If we went back any further, we fall out, right?
You're out of the stadium.
And that whole place is just...
You just felt yourself
You
shaking.
felt the place, the energy just...
I bet that's an awesome experience.
It was.
Oh, and, bases are loaded. It's one of those games you got to win if you want to continue because this is the playoffs. And it's show up or go home.
Everybody was on the edge of their seat just watching. And then he does the best thing you can do in that situation, which is hit it out
a
of
grand slam.
That's crazy.
And gosh, that was he rose to the occasion on that. He didn't let the pressure of the moment. He didn't shrink from it.
That's good.
It's that old tin cup.
And he's young too.
He's very young,
21, 22.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And this is something you, as a kid, Bobby, isn't it? You grow up playing sports, and in your mind, whether it's basketball and it's tied up with only a second left and you're on the foul line, you play these head games all the time in every game you're in.
Yeah.
And he literally was in that moment and did it.
Yeah.
So for my example, I was thinking about this. Everybody knows I was going to pick LeBron. It's pretty good figure.
The antagonist of the group. Go ahead.
You know, if you watch the sport, maybe it's not. But, no, seriously though, like I think everybody thinks of LeBron and they think of that championship against the Warriors, the 73-9 Warriors. So greatest winning streak of all time in a team, and he beats them, right? That was great, obviously. He brought a championship back to Cleveland. That's a 46-year drought. A lot of great things happened there. That's not what I think of, actually, though, when I think of LeBron, like in a great moment from LeBron, because everybody thinks of that block he had in Iguodala.
Yeah.
I actually think of like either the year after or 2 years after, right? The 18 championship. It's game 1 of the finals. And so this is a different year because just a little backstory. The Warriors, a 73-9 team, you know, had the greatest winning record of all basketball. They added Kevin Durant. If you don't have Kevin Durant, arguably the greatest scorer of all time. Right. I would argue greatest scorer, hands down. 7 foot, can handle the ball, can shoot. Well, they go against them in the finals, right? Mm-hmm. On top of that, Cleveland is down 2 of their star players. Kevin Love's hurt, Kyrie's hurt. So it's really just a LeBron versus a very, very good Warriors team, arguably the greatest team of all time as far as talent.
Yeah. Just stocked with talent.
Yeah. And so game 1, the reason people remember this game is from J.R. Smith didn't know the score. Okay. So it's a tie game. I think it's like 104 or 114. They're both 114, right? Game 4 or game 1, fourth quarter. And JR gets the ball, you know, the time's got 7 seconds left. They could win the game right there. And everybody knows basketball is a game of momentum.
Right.
So had they won game 1, you know, had JR shot the ball or given it to somebody and they make a point and they get game 1, they might have won that finals. Nobody expected them to win because star players are hurt. This is a much better team. So they lost that game in overtime.
Yeah.
But people don't remember, at least it doesn't feel like people remember how good LeBron was through that entire game. I mean, he had 51 points, 8 rebounds, like 12 assists. He did everything and played, I think, the entire game. He never sat down. And so I remember watching that game and just thinking, that's leadership.
Yeah.
That's leadership. He got on the floor and it wasn't a question of like, oh, is LeBron good or can he meet that? Like he was meeting the expectation and they still lost. So it goes forgotten. Like, well, they didn't win. But I just remember watching that game being like, this guy literally does everything. I mean, he's not the fastest guy to ever play in the NBA, but he's stronger than your fastest guy. He's not the strongest guy to play in the NBA, but he's faster than your strongest guy.
Yeah.
And he used all of that to his ability. I mean, they were playing Kevin Durant, you know, Clay, Dre, and Steph. They ended up losing, but I highly encourage anybody, go watch the highlights from that game. LeBron was like, no, I'm the greatest playing right now.
Yeah.
We may lose, but we are going to put up a fight.
It ain't going to be because I phoned it in.
Yeah, so 2 life lessons there that I learned. I was like, number 1, that's leadership. I mean, he stepped up to the plate. He's not even a natural scorer, but 51 points against a great defensive team. And then on top of that, kind of like a negative lesson, but just something to carry. Like I said, basketball is a game of momentum. Had JR, you know, known what the score was and passed to somebody and they score right there and they, you know, win that first game.
Yeah.
Basketball is a game of momentum. That could have carried them to
It could have
another
changed the whole
championship.
trajectory of that playoff.
And I think if LeBron had won, you know, that series, people would be talking differently about like there'd be still people that's like, no, MJ's the GOAT, but they would recognize.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that goes without saying, but
they would definitely recognize, you know, and that's kind of like the flip side of it too. I mean, I think there's partial ownership of like, you know, he didn't win, but sometimes you go out there knowing you're not going to win. You put out the best performance.
Oh, absolutely.
You can do.
There's a way to win. There's a way to win. And there's a way to lose.
Yeah.
You know,
and he lost the right way.
And you lose the right way. You can always keep your head up. Yeah.
That's the joke about LeBron. He carries dumpsters to the finals. And he did. I mean, he carried a broken team, and it was great.
Bobby, what kind of takeaways do you have? And I know you're going to be sharing a big one tonight, but do you got any moments in life and sports as you're observing someone operating at their highest level that you can say, hey, there's a lesson here?
Wow. Let me see. It's probably the picture that's directly behind me, where Sid Bream slid in to win the game for the Braves.
Yeah.
I was 8 rows from the visitors on deck circle, So I was right up close and personal, got to see the whole thing. That was probably the loudest that I had ever heard a stadium. Fulton County Stadium was actually shaking up and down. And the Braves had come back. I mean, the game was pretty much over.
Yeah.
And the Braves had to score several times just to get the game tied. And, here's a guy on the base pass. You could climb, you could time Sid Bream with an egg timer.
Yeah, he wasn't the fastest runner on it.
And spent a lot of time running in place. And, plow horses, I'm surprised it's not, they didn't put in like a pitcher or somebody to run for them.
Yeah.
Because anything on the outfield grass is going to score everybody but maybe him and Maddox.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, to watch Bream, crack of the bat, he's off, he's running. I mean, when you watch him go around third base, he touches third base perfectly and makes it in about as straight as line as you can make it from third to home. And I mean, here's a guy who absolutely, positively was going 100% from the word go. And he scored the run. But you had an awful lot of people. Terry Pendleton, has the double to get things started. You have Justice with a great at bat. And, it was the never quit attitude of that 92 team of the Braves, that they thought that they could win it literally at any time. And, the lesson there is never quit.
Yeah.
It's not over till it's over.
That's right.
And I was actually at that game, I was with Eddie Vargo, who was the head of National League umpires. I'm from the same town as Eddie in Pennsylvania. And my dad actually used to cut his hair.
Wow.
And so, I'm there with like a family friend who happens to be, the top umpire in baseball.
Right.
And so it was great being able to talk shop. And Dale Murphy came over and he was talking to Eddie. And I mean, it was a really kind of a neat experience, to watch Murphy jumping up and down when, they scored that final run. He's cheering as loud as anybody in the stadium. And Eddie Vargo's standing there with his panty hands in his pockets, and he wants to cheer, but he can't because he's an umpire.
He's got to stay neutral. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the loudest and wildest I had ever seen a stadium.
Wow.
I was there when the Braves won it in 95, not even close.
Wow. Wow. Never quit, never give up. Even if you got Sid Bream, the winning score to bring it home, don't quit, don't give up. Miracles still happen.
It's probably that year, it was probably the fastest 2 minutes in sports. I mean, it was only 180 feet, but I mean.
Yeah, you'll have to Google that sometime and watch. I mean, it is. Me right now in my shape would run faster than this professional athlete.
I can't imagine being there in person. That sounds unbelievable.
I think that's why we're all attracted to sports. To some visceral level, we love watching people compete for something they want, and we relate to when they fall short. Because you can relate to that. To me, sports is the modern day Shakespearean plays playing out right in front of us to see, life. And my one moment, I'm gonna break away from sports and I'm gonna use music as a lesson. And it is so nonchalant. It's probably most people didn't notice it, but just because I know the band and know a little of the inside politics and stuff of what was going on. It was a life lesson to me, and it was in 1994 a live concert at the Greek Amphitheater was recorded where Chicago was playing, and you can go out and you can YouTube this, you can watch it. During the song of 25 or 6 to 4, which is one of their big hits, the trombone player, which is got an ego as big as Texas, which I love. The reason I play trombone is because of Jimmy Pankow. But he's playing and he's shaking his rear end, he's doing his thing, putting on a show. But he takes that trombone slide and just sort of flicks Bill Champlin's hair. Bill Champlin had his long hair. Now, I know because I know that band and I've talked to them since, there was a lot of animosity there. And that was Jimmy Pankow's way of saying, hey, I'm King Dingaling on stage here, don't you forget it. Even though I'm just the horn player,
Yeah.
this is my band.
I'm still the guy.
I'm still the guy, and you're the hireling.
Yeah.
Even though everybody's watching you because you're playing the guitar and you're out here singing. And so it's on the video. And you can see Champlin sort of look at him, and he smiled, and he kept going. Now, I know, because I've talked to the man afterwards, that teed him off.
He's so mad.
He wanted to wring his neck because it was this dismissive little...
It's disrespectful.
It's disrespectful. It's trying to one-up someone on stage while you're being videotaped, and this thing is going out live and then videotaped later. But he was the consummate professional. He realized what I'm here for, what I'm doing. You stay professional and you deal with this later. And he dealt with it later. And he got what he needed to get done to handle the situation. And my life takeaway is this, is when you are on stage of life, when you're called to do something, when you're out there in the public, there are going to be times that you're going to be tempted to play the lesser role. But what's the old adage? The ref, the ump, the teacher, no one sees you punching back because you were first punched. They only see the response.
Yeah.
So he's smart.
It's always the one that responds.
It's always the response that gets the foul called. It's always, it's not the instigator. It's the one that's responding to the instigation. But he had enough self-awareness. I'm on TV. I'm playing. I'm not. And, for the casual...
I know where your dressing room is. We'll deal with this later.
The casual observer thinks it's two people up on stage just bantering.
Right.
Just
I would watch that and be like, oh, look, they're buddies.
Yeah, they're just... But if you know what's going on, it's like, buddy, you just wait till the curtain's drawn. So that was my takeaway from that. It wasn't a big moment in history of music history. It wasn't Woodstock. It wasn't.
I like that though.
But it was just a little, keeping professional. So that's my takeaway. Well, guys, when we get back, Bobby has got some life lessons that he's learned behind the ropes down there at the LPGA Championship. And we can't wait to hear from that because he's got a whole lineup of things he's wanting to bring to us and bring some value. So we'll be back right after this with Coach Bobby. With Allstate Auto Insurance, you can get safe driving bonus checks, deductible reward, accident forgiveness, and new car replacement. Get a quote for your plan today by going to terrywilson3.com/allstate. That's terrywilson3.com/allstate.
With Allstate, drivers who switched saved over $700. Saving is easy when you're in good hands. Allstate.
terrywilson3.com/allstate.
You're listening to TerryWilson3.com. Inspiring, informative, and entertaining content for the entrepreneur and small business owner.
And now back to our show with Terry Wilson.
We are back. I am not Terry, but we are back. And we've got a special training presented by Bobby that I would love to get into. So let's do it.
Thanks for having me back. Everybody who knows me knows that I love sports, especially baseball. What most people don't know is that golf is actually my favorite sport. I've been around golf all my life. My grandfather, along with Arnold Palmer, started the American Golf Hall of Fame in the 1960s. I started playing the game when I was 10, and up until recently I was pretty much a scratch golfer. I've had exactly one golf lesson, and that was with Arnold Palmer. I was 12 or so at the time, and it lasted all of 10 minutes. He watched me hit a few golf balls and then turned to my grandfather and said, "The kid's a natural. Don't let anybody ever change his swing." A couple of knee reconstructions and a shoulder reconstruction did me in. I no longer play golf competitively. I just stroll the fairways and have a lot of fun. The game of golf has changed a lot over the years. When I was younger, golf was a lonely sport. In Gary Player's 1991 autobiography, To Be the Best, he said that globe-trotting golf is a solitary existence. I eat alone, I practice alone, It's just me against the rest. A few months ago, I signed up to be a volunteer at this year's Ladies PGA Championship, which was played near my home here in Atlanta. I've been to a lot of professional golf tournaments over the years, but I never had the opportunity to go behind the scenes to see what really happens. I got to see the business of golf up close and personal for the very first time. What I'd like to share with you today are some of the things I learned behind the ropes. My three key takeaways are responsibility, accountability, and teamwork. There were 4 primary groups of people at the tournament: the players and those people associated with them, the media, mainly NBC and the Golf Channel. This was the broadcast team, the reporters, technicians, and cameramen. The volunteers, and there were about 1,200 or so of us. And then you have the fans. During the week, I mingled with all 4, and that was a lot of fun. Somebody once told me there are really 3 types of people you're going to meet in business: those that make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. The common thread in all of these boils down to responsibility and accountability. As a volunteer, I was required to work 3 4-hour shifts during the 4-day tournament. I ended up working double shifts each day because a lot of people didn't honor their commitments. Look, a lot of stuff comes up. But for example, on Thursday, I was headed back to the clubhouse when one of the hole marshals grabbed me and asked me to grab a rope and let the players and caddies move from the green to the tee box. She asked me if I was scheduled to work with her, and I said that I had just finished back-to-back shifts and was headed to the clubhouse. I lent her a hand for about 30 minutes or so while they tried to locate the guy who was supposed to be working with her. The guy just wandered off. The next day, Friday, the leaderboard chairlady asked if I would work a double shift on the last day, which was Sunday. The reason was that the lady who had signed up had canceled because her daughter was getting married that day. I mean, really? You'd think that your daughter's wedding would be already on your calendar and highlighted. Let's talk a little bit about the players. Today's players are physically fit, mentally tough, and people who have clear-cut goals and objectives. What separates them from other professional athletes is that they are paid what they're worth week in and week out, like we are here at TW3. They aren't a bunch of whiners and complainers. Professional golf today is an individual sport built around a team. It's a business, a really big, big business. The total prize money on the men's tour this year is about $430 million. The LPGA is around $75 million. And I'm not even including here the over 50 Champions Tour or the Nike Tour. $500 million is a pretty sizable pile of money. Today's winners have a lot of people to thank, and I don't mean just mom and dad and the tournament sponsor. The team members all share a common goal. Their job is to cover all of the bases and get the player to play his or her best day in and day out. Everybody has to be on the same page and working toward a common objective. When you look closely, the whole here is greater than the sum of the parts. In order for the team to be successful, everybody is responsible to do their part. You have a job to do, and you're expected to do it. Strict accountability and excuses don't cut it. You're paid to do a job, and if you don't do it, well, there's somebody else out there who wants that job. I'll say that again: personal responsibility and strict accountability. Business owners and entrepreneurs live and die by those words every day. The modern player's payroll includes pretty much their immediate family, mom and dad, spouse, significant other, children, nanny, traveling teachers. Of course, their caddy. Many have coaches, a swing coach, a short game coach, a putting coach. They also have a mental coach or a sports psychologist. They have fitness coaches, physical therapists, massage therapists, maybe even a nutritionist or personal chef, and interpreters. The management team is comprised of the agent, the manager, the publicist, attorneys, CPAs, and financial advisor. Maybe they even have a spiritual advisor or a personal valet. Cynics say that today's pressure to perform has created a generation of fragile athletes. Modern professionals believe that more help really helps. Our culture has changed. Younger players don't see themselves as heroically alone like Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Gary Player and others of their generation did. Those who come up through the academy system today are comfortable with the team of teachers and trainers because that's how they did it in high school and college. The business of golf should be based on simplicity. More shouldn't be better or more complicated. But more usually does mean more complication. It all comes down to their business plan. Who's really running the show? Is it the golfer, who is likely young and in their 20s? In a perfect world, the golfer would be the CEO, and everybody should answer to them. Who on the team is the voice of reason? Who hires and who fires and on what basis? Should your agent also be your business manager? Should your business manager maybe be your accountant? And do you want your wedge guy and your swing guy talking? Should your caddy drive the nanny in your RV to the next tournament? It's all about metrics, about what can be measured. If it can be measured, it can be improved. When I was a kid, my favorite place at a tournament was at the practice range. I'd sit there and watch the pros warm up. There weren't any committees. Players talked among themselves and chatted with all the caddies. They checked out each other's bags and often hit each other's clubs. They yacked up a storm. Then they went out and played their rounds, and after their round was over, they all went out and grabbed a few drinks. One of the things I heard behind the scenes caught me by surprise. It was from some of the older TV folks. They were talking about the entourages surrounding the players and the fact that they seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. The consensus among these guys was that the younger people have never really learned the trade of golf. Hitting a golf ball, shaping a shot, putting spin on the ball is both an art form and a science. They don't really know the game of golf, and it's because they've never taught the game. To really begin to understand golf is when you really begin to teach it. When they face a little adversity today, they go looking. The pros today would take a lesson from a ball washer if they thought it would help. Think about that for a minute. Are you a master of your craft? Are you working on your game each and every day? Who are your coaches? And how much of your success is left up to chance? The game of golf really began to change when Arnold Palmer came on the scene in 1958. Prize money eclipsed $1 million for the first time, and Arnold led the money list with $42,607 in winnings. That November, Arnold met a bright young attorney from Cleveland. His name was Mark McCormick, and he had this big idea, which was to represent golf pros to the world of business. When Palmer signed on board, the angels sang, and golf's Uber agency, IMG, was born. Hollywood actually invented the entourage. It was for stars so that they could travel with their poodles and publicists, and they left the bill with the studios and the production companies. It's a lot like basketball and football players today, where they create make-believe jobs for the hangers-on. You know, it's hard to compare that to, what the tour pros face each and every day, because their job is basically one long road trip. You really have to think about it. Is it about relationships or where you stand on the money list? What's Thanksgiving going to be like if you have to fire your dad? Bringing family onto the team happens all the time. Palmer's swing coach was his dad. Jack Nicklaus had Jack Grout, but teachers seldom went to tour events. Caddies with blood or marriage ties to their employers have been part of the tour for years. Patrick Harrington's brother-in-law is his caddy. And Jim Lehman, who's an agent, has represented his brother for a really long time. Team size can be a problem, especially when everybody's not on the same page. One coach could be focusing on the process, while maybe another guy is telling the player to just go out and win. In other words, focus on the results. Meetings aren't held often, but when they do, the agenda is simple. And that's to make sure everybody is on the same page. I heard that the smallest entourage goes to Bubba Watson. He's self-taught, and his wife doubles as his agent. Christy McPherson is the Bubba Dub of the LPGA Tour and has a bare-bones staff of just a caddy and an agent. Christy, who's from Conway, South Carolina, says, "I'm one of the very few without an instructor, but I've never taken lessons. At this year's LPGA Championship, she finished the first 2 rounds at +7 and didn't make the cut. She might want to rethink that and maybe take a few lessons." My biggest surprise was the sheer number of Asians on the women's tour. These women are small in stature, but when it comes to their games, these women can really, really play. The highlight of my week was to watch In-Ji Chun bag a hole-in-one on the 15th hole on Sunday. I had never seen one before, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. From the tee, it sounded sweet. The landing was soft, and it plopped directly into the cup. The gallery went berserk. It was the best shot I saw of the week, and it was an amazing thing to witness. For them, simple means a lot of people, not less. I mean, they travel with their whole families. And these entourages represent a familiar society of people to travel and work with and socialize with because of the language barrier. And another reason might be because of their age. A lot of these girls are under the age of 25. Don't miss my point. These are some of the best golfers in the world. Watching the way they handled themselves on the course was truly impressive. Their demeanor, their focus, their attention to detail, and their work ethic was a lesson in and of itself. The winner of the tournament was Nelly Korda from Bradenton, Florida. She really just tore up the course. She posted a score of 19 under par. It was her first major victory, and I got to tell you, her future looks really, really bright. It was her 3rd win of the year, and she currently leads the money list with $1.8 million in earnings. Her victory at the LPGA Championship moved her up to the #1 women's golfer in the world, which is pretty rarefied air for a 22-year-old. My key takeaways here. You need to be someone who makes things happen. It's all about action. You need to work on your game each and every day. If you're not, remember that your competition is. You have to be personally responsible for all of your actions, and you have to be accountable when it comes to results. When it comes to teams, everybody has to be singing from the same hymn book. The sum of the parts is greater than the whole. You are replaceable. And in this world where you make what you're worth, you are worth more than you think. Thanks again for having me. Oh, and don't forget to tune in every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern and listen to my show, Coach C's Inside Pitch, on TW3radio.com.
And now back to our show with Terry Wilson.
Bobby, what a great training, guys. Bobby always brings the heat. Always. Bobby. Ask Bobby. That's why he's the coach.
Thank you.
I always bring the heat, Bobby. Thank you so much. Well, I got something that I actually put out on our TW3, coachwithtw3.com podcast, which is where we deal mostly with mindset. And I thought, I want to put this training here right behind Bobby because I think it's going to sort of complement one another in the fact that Bobby just gave us some things that, some life lessons that if we would go after and we would pursue, we would be better for. But what keeps us from being, as the old biblical cliche goes, hearers of the word and not doers? You know what I'm saying? There's so many times, and Bobby, have you faced this? You know what the right thing to do is. You know what you need to do. You just don't do it because either you're not motivated, you're not inspired, you're not, you don't have the emotional energy, fortitude, wherewithal at that point. Maybe you're emotionally drained. And so what do we do in those moments where we're seeing life illustrated right there in front of us? Because there's one thing, and I love what Bobby did here. He's not just watching a sport; he's observing. And there's a whole different. That's a whole nother level of consumption.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
a lot
between listening and hearing.
Yeah, a lot of people listen to music, but they don't hear it.
Yeah,
right. And so Bobby's not just watching a game; he's observing the game and observing what's going on. And so he's been able to extrapolate those lessons for us tonight. But once we have knowledge of, okay, this is something we need to do, this is the way we ought to, then how do we take it from going from not doing anything to actually putting action behind what we know to do? And there was a great training by Mel Robbins. It's called the 5-second training that I actually played for our coaching clients. And I want to give you an excerpt for that right now. So let's get right into that.
There are so many people in the world, and you may be watching this right now, and you have these incredible ideas, and what you think is missing is motivation. And that's not true. Because the way that our minds are wired, and the fact about human beings is that we are not designed to do things that are uncomfortable or scary or difficult. Our brains are designed to protect us from those things because our brains are trying to keep us alive. And in order to change, in order to build a business, in order to be the best parent, the best spouse, to do all those things that you know you want to do with your life, with your work, with your dreams, you're going to have to do things that are difficult, uncertain, or scary, which sets up this problem for all of us. You're never going to feel like it.
And why do you think that is?
I know exactly why that is. Because I've studied this so much, because for me, one of the hardest things to figure out was, why is it so hard to do the little things that would improve my life? And what I've come to realize is that the way that our minds are designed is our minds are designed to stop you at all costs from doing anything that might hurt you. The way that this all happens is it all starts with something super subtle that none of us ever catch. And that is with this habit that all of us have that nobody's talking about. We all have a habit of hesitating. We have an idea, you're sitting in a meeting, you have this incredible idea, and instead of just, saying it, you stop and you hesitate. Now, what none of us realize is that when you hesitate, just that moment, that micro moment, that small hesitation, it sends a stress signal to your brain. It wakes your brain up, and your brain all of a sudden goes, oh wait a minute, why is he hesitating? He didn't hesitate when he put on his killer spiky sneakers. He didn't hesitate with the really cool track pants. He didn't hesitate with the NASA t-shirt. Now he's hesitating to talk, something must be up. Then your brain goes to work to protect you. It has a million different ways to protect you. One of them is called the spotlight effect. It's a known phenomenon where your brain magnifies risk. Why? To pull you away from something that it perceives to be a problem. And so you can truly trace every single problem or complaint in your life to silence and hesitation. Those are decisions. What I do and what's changed my life is waking up and realizing that I'm never going to feel like doing the things that are tough or difficult or uncertain or scary or new. So I need to stop waiting until I feel like it. And number two, I am one decision away from a totally different marriage, a totally different life, a totally different job, a totally different income, a totally different relationship with my kids. Not like one decision, I'm divorcing you, in the marriage example, but one decision on, you know, you could be having a conversation with your spouse and you feel your emotions rise up, and within a tiny window, those emotions can take over and can impact how your marriage goes. Or you can learn how to take control of that micro moment and make a decision to act in a way that actually shifts your marriage. Your life comes down to your decisions, and if you change your decisions, you will change everything. In the scheme of life, hitting the snooze button is not that big of a deal. But here's the thing about life. None of us wake up and say, today is the day I destroy my life. What we do is we kind of check out because it feels overwhelming, or we check out because we're afraid, or we check out because we start listening to self-doubt, and then we make these teeny tiny decisions all day long. We don't even realize it. Decision to not get up on time, a decision to not eat the right thing, a decision to snap at your kids, a decision to not speak in a meeting, a decision to not look for a job, a decision to not deal with your finances, a decision to not call your parents, like whatever it is. All day long, these tiny decisions that take you so far off track. And then you wake up like I did and you look at your life and you think, how the hell did I get here? And more importantly, how do I get back over there? And you have no idea. And so I was so trapped. And I know from your story, you felt the same way. Like you knew that there was more in store for you, but you couldn't figure out, how do you close that gap? How do you find the power that's in you? How do you discover your greatness? How do you solve these problems? It feels so overwhelming when you can't. I mean, I would go to the grocery store and the items would scan and I would be sitting there readying my excuse because there was no way that my check card was going to clear. I got in this struggle with myself that a lot of us find ourselves in, and that is you get trapped in what I call the knowledge action gap. You know what to do, but you can't seem to make yourself do it, right? I mean, every one of us is one Google search away from a list of instructions that if you follow any of them, it will change your life. But how do you get out of your head and stop thinking about what you need to do and actually do it? And in my case, this stuff was pretty easy. Get up on time, make breakfast for the kids, get them on the bus, start looking for a job. Don't drink so much. Instead of isolating yourself, pick up the phone and call a friend. Get yourself out into the woods and go for a walk. Start running again. Like all these little things that I was capable of, but I couldn't get out of here. Could not get out of here. And if you're stuck, that's the problem. The problem is you're in your head, you're thinking. When you set goals, when you have an intention on something that you want to change about your life, your brain helps you. What it does is it opens up a checklist, and then your brain goes to work trying to remind you of that intention that you set. And it's really important to develop the skill, and I say that word purposefully, the skill of knowing how to hear that inner wisdom and that intention kicking in and leaning into it quickly. So for me, my brain saying, that's it, right there, move as fast as a rocket, Mel. I wanted to change my life. And I think most people that are miserable or that are really like dying to be great and dying to have more, we want to change. We want to live a better life. We want to create more for our families. We want to be happier. The desire is there. Again, it's about how do you go from knowledge to action. So the first thing in this story that's important is realizing that the answer was in me. And my mind was telling me, pay attention. Anyway, the next morning, the alarm goes off and I pretended NASA was there. It's the stupidest story. I literally went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I counted out loud and then I stood up. And I'll never forget standing there in my bedroom. It was dark. It was cold. It was winter in Boston. And for the first time in 3 months, I had beaten my habit of hitting the snooze button. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, wait a minute. Counting backwards? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Well, the next morning I used it again and it worked. The next morning I used it again and it worked. The next morning I used it again and it worked. And then I started to notice something really interesting. There were moments all day long, just like that 5-second moment in bed, where I knew, knowledge, what I should do. And if I didn't move within 5 seconds, my brain would step in and talk me out of it. Every human being has a 5-second window, might even be shorter for you. You have about a 5-second window in which you can move from idea to action before your brain kicks into full gear and sabotages any change in behavior. Because remember, your brain is wired to stop you from doing things that are uncomfortable or uncertain or scary. It's your job to learn how to move from those ideas that could change everything into acting on them. When you understand the power of a 5-second decision, and you understand that you always have a choice to go from autopilot to decision maker, everything in your life will change. You will be a different negotiator, you will be different in sales, you will be unstoppable in the gym, because you will realize the amount of garbage that you put in the way of your hopes, of your dreams, of your potential, of your confidence, of your courage. Everything comes down to the decisions that you make. We all know what to do. None of us know how to make ourselves do it. I started researching it. Why does something so stupid work? Why? Why does something so silly create such powerful and profound change? Well, here's why. The rule is a form of metacognition. Metacognition is a fancy pants term that means something real simple. You can outsmart your own brain in furtherance of goals. There are tricks that you can use that actually outsmart the tricks your brain plays on you in furtherance of a higher purpose. We all know this. You can restrain yourself if you're in a situation that calls for it. You can jump into a raging river to save your dog or your kid. You can direct yourself in ways if it's important to you. And so the rule, what it does is it does something really remarkable. When you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what you're actually doing is you're interrupting what researchers call habit loops that get encoded as closed loop patterns in your basal ganglia. That's the part of the brain where your feelings, where your emotions, every habit that you have, which is nothing more than behavior that you repeat, that you don't even think about. And so when you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it interrupts what's going on here that's spinning without you thinking, and it moves and awakens your prefrontal cortex. So when you hit 1, your habit has been interrupted. So you've interrupted self-doubt. You've interrupted maybe snapping at your kids. You've interrupted the desire to grab for a drink. You've interrupted procrastination. You've also, by counting backwards, done an action. It's awakened your prefrontal cortex. That is the part of the brain that you need that's awake when you're changing behavior, when you're learning new things. When you hit 1, it's also a prompt. So in the language of research, you'll hear people talk about starting rituals. That is something that's proven to help you learn a new habit. The 5-second rule, when you repeat it, becomes a starting ritual that triggers you to act with confidence, that triggers you that this is a moment for courage, that triggers you to shift gears. And because you've also done the manual work of awakening the part of the brain that you need to change, you've set yourself up for success. It doesn't work if you count up, because you can keep going. And also, counting up doesn't require focus. If you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it again awakens the prefrontal cortex and it prompts you to move. When you start to use it and then you read about it, you'll see that it's being used all over the place. They use it in the armed services in order to align troops and get them to start an exercise. They use it at elementary schools, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, at big assemblies to get a huge room full of kids to stop talking.
Really simple and interesting example, yeah.
Because it requires you to focus. It's not a habit. It will become a habit that prompts you to have confidence and courage. But in the beginning, it interrupts patterns of behavior that you do on autopilot. It helps you assert control, and it teaches you how to become the kind of person that moves from thinking about something to actually doing it. I think we're all flawed, and that's the beauty of who you are. And instead of trying to make yourself perfect in every area, it's so much easier when you accept the things that you're terrible at, or that are your weaknesses, or that are the things about your wiring. Look, if I were diabetic, I would take insulin. I happen to be somebody that's wired for anxiety. Right. No big deal. So figure out how to, instead of fighting those things, actually trick it. Because the truth is that you're never gonna feel ready to make these changes. You're never gonna feel like doing them, but you can always make a decision. That's always in your control. Staying with somebody that treats you like garbage is a decision. It is. Staying at a job that you hate is a decision. Staying in the body that you are not proud of is a decision. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not gonna be easy to change. It's simple. Do a Google search and then use the 5-second rule to force yourself to do that stuff. Change comes down to 5-second decisions, and this is why the 5-second rule is important for everybody to know. It's your job to push yourself. And I don't care if you're Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or you're Michelangelo, or you're Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton, you will struggle with self-doubt. And everybody that you admire, everybody, and the list is the same for everybody. Oh, Oprah Winfrey, and I want to be like, Tom, and I want to be like, Branson, and I want to be like Jay-Z, and I want, like, everybody's list is Bill Gates, and do you know what those people do? They do not have the habit of hesitating. They trust themselves.
You're listening to TerryWilson3.com. Inspiring, informative, and entertaining content for the entrepreneur and small business owner.
And now back to our show with Terry Wilson.
That was a great training. It was more than 5 seconds, so it was more than a 5-second training. Just a little discrepancy there.
Did I say 5 seconds? I'm sorry.
It says tee up the 5-second training.
Yeah. Well, the training's on 5.
Play on words there.
Play on words. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm making fun. We're back. Segment 4. We do have questions. You can go to terrywilson3.com/contact if you want to submit your questions in. We can ask them. Question 1: what's the best way to target insurance buyers using your lead gen system?
Well, and Bobby comes from the insurance world too. The one thing I love about both Bobby and I didn't know this until later on. We both had experience with Western and Southern Life. And one of the things I loved about that company is they had these, what they called sales models, which was ways that you would engage your clients based on what their needs were. And it could be mortgage protection. It could be final expense. It could be college planning. So the way I have done life insurance lead generation is find out what sort of sales model I'm going after. Am I looking for mortgage protection because I want to sell, term or universal life? And so I would target an audience that
kind of like knowing your demographic.
Yeah, and so you pull that demographic list. Okay, well, obviously we want homeowners because you can't sell mortgage protection to renters, right? And then you want it to be of a certain type of mortgage, so just using a little bit of homework on who that avatar is would help. And I can tell you right now, what I would do is find out who is working for the government to go door to door in the South to try to see if people are vaccinated. Those people need life insurance probably more than anyone.
Talking about that earlier, yeah. That's a bold job. That's not a political statement either.
That's not a political statement. I don't care what side you're on.
You got to be brave to go to the South. And
come on up here to South Carolina and ask Bubba. Yeah. See what happens.
Get you a robo-dialer, man.
Yeah, you bet.
I'll be knocking on them doors.
You couldn't pay me enough.
Well, in addition to life insurance, they'll also need health insurance because somebody may not shoot them, may not just outright shoot them. They may just sick the dog off.
Exactly right. Yep. Oh, my word. I saw the other day where the report came through that they was going to, in South Carolina, start going door to door. And I was like, where did they find these people?
I immediately have fear for the person that's going door to door.
I was like, I hope you know Jesus, because your butt is about to belong to Bubba.
Yeah. Once again, I'm sure that's not a political statement.
I know.
Think of the process, though, of going down south, going door to door. let's say it was for a political race and it just happened to be the Democratic candidate. There's certain things you just gotta. We're making fun of our own, really.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I don't want nobody come to my. Never.
All right, question 2.
Get me out of this.
I'm a new elite member and want to build up my agency with SRTs, preferably, and affiliates? ?
Yeah. So new elite member, and Bobby, by the way, how is that TW3 Easy Pay going? Is that thing
It's going well?
I mean, think about this, guys. The new elite member asking that question. We have a product, a service right now that people can literally get involved with as little as nothing. It could be as much as a few $100s, but as little as nothing, and literally within weeks be able to get people involved and make anywhere from $750 to $1,750.
You really have to have been here for a bit to appreciate how much easier it has just become for our sales.
I don't want to say, but there's no excuses anymore.
Yeah.
There is no excuse. If you want more.
If you want to get started, you can.
If you want to get started, you can.
Yep.
That's just the bottom line. But to answer that person's question, if you're an elite member, go back in your back office. I think it's step 10. And there's a training a year or so ago on how to set up affiliate links. And I'll tell you the company, one of them that we recommend is called Lead Dino, and you can go to leaddino.com. But what we tell people, especially you guys that are elite members, you can put all of your packages in your store that you get set up, your SRT, your plus level package, and your elite package, because you're collecting all the money anyway, right? So you put those packages in there, and then you go to Lead Dino, and you sync that with your store, and it allows you to create an independent affiliate link for every affiliate you bring on. So they can go out and start marketing, and as people click on it, it gives you a report, okay, where did that come from? Oh, my affiliate over here sold that, so you know how to pay out.
It's a good way to keep track of everything.
You can keep track, pay out the commissions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it's just going right through your store, and then you're collecting it, and then you're and that's the other beautiful thing. Think about this. You're in a business with endless inventory. You can sell as many packages as you want, and you don't have to pay for the package you're selling until after you sold it. So you sell the product, and then you don't have to hey, I need 5 elite packages because that's what I'm gonna try to sell this month, and you have to prepay it, and then you go out and sell it. No, you just pay it when the sales come in, which is a pretty cool thing too. But that Lead Dino, use that.
Lead Dino.
Yeah.
Last question was asking about Mom. You had mentioned last week she was in the hospital. So.
It was a work-related accident. She.
Don't do the stop. Stop.
No, she's fine. It was just I was going to do the joke, but I won't. But it was nothing serious. Just
she's okay.
She's okay. Thank you for asking. Someone put that on, and I had several emails. Hey, is Gina okay? It was nothing major. It's just a
people don't know, but thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
You're all welcome. I saved you from just a terrible joke I've been hearing for 20
That is a great
years.
joke.
It's not. Go ahead, say it. Go ahead.
You want me to tell the joke?
Tell the joke. What was Mom doing?
Well, it was a work-related accident. Her ankle bracelet got caught up in her earring. She fell off the pool table.
Yeah.
See that?
Stupid. Heard that joke.
That's a great joke. Come on.
Years, something like that.
Yeah, it's a little off color, but come on. You have a little fun.
Stupid.
Bobby, it was great tonight, man. You did great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being on with us and enduring all of our bad humor and terrible jokes.
Yeah, all of ours.
Mostly the boys. I know mine was great, but So what you got planned this week, brother?
What do I have planned? Well, first thing I'm going to do is take off this jacket. I started off this thing with my uniform on because I had my volunteer hat here, but when I put it on, it looked like a light bulb had gone off above my head. And that's all you could see. I've got my nice jacket on here that says LPGA.
Yeah.
I don't think that, in that one video, where it showed the older guy doing the hitting and that, I forgot to put on there that I'm sitting in the front row. And with Jim Simons, who's actually a friend of our family, was sitting in the second row.
Nice.
He was a touring pro for a long time, and he had actually gotten his start, with the crowd of people that were actually there at that time. And it was kind of, golf with me was a really neat experience growing up with my grandfather. And Lowell Thomas was actually the MC that year that picture was taken at the induction ceremony.
Yeah.
And, I loved it. And, virtually all the pictures that were in that presentation, I should have put photo by Bobby underneath it, because my leaderboard there was on 15. That one leaderboard that I showed was on hole 15 right after we got done. The players had just walked up 16, and they had called over the intercom and said, my earpiece, and said, "Hey, you can wrap it up." So I jumped down, took a picture, and cleaned off the board and walked in with the players.
Nice. Well, I love being around people at the top of their game and just observing it. That's what an honor to be able to do that. And I know you had just an incredible time. And thank you for taking that time and turning it into value for all of us.
Well, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to it next year. I've actually already signed up to volunteer next year for the LPGA up at it's going to be up at Congressional in Maryland.
Okay.
So I'm going to take 3 or 4 days and go up there and kind of hang out, and hopefully I'll have a leaderboard up there. Or, I'm working my way toward an NBC hat, where I can ride around a golf cart with some of the NBC people.
Yeah, nice. Well, look out, Bob Costas. All right, guys. Well, that was episode 474. You've been listening to Coach Bobby Christy, and Bobby can be heard. What is it? Every
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night at
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, no. 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Okay. Well, let me go over it. Let me just double.
Yeah, we better double check.
Let's double check this. Pull this up. TW3 Radio.
Yeah, Lori's on at 8.
Is Lori? Well, you listen to Lori too, but you got to hear Bobby. Coach Bobby is, let's see here, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. at TW3Radio.com. Inside Pitch. And if you're a sports fan like we are, and a life fan and an entrepreneur, and you want to succeed and all of that, he's always bringing these tidbits of information and illustrations and inspiration of how you can have your best life just by observing the world around you and learning from everything you see and do. So great stuff, Bobby.
Well, thank you.
All right, guys, we will see you on the flip side. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to our show today at TerryWilson3.com.
Get a free sample copy of the book You Are Worth More by going to TerryWilson3.com now.
If you would like more information on how we can take your money, your business, and your life to the next level, then please visit us online at TerryWilson3.com.